A mutation over a century earlier had transformed the deceased into monstrous being. The background showed a world filled with fire and shadow. Debris and energy burst outward as fighting continued between the living and mutated beings. Ruined structures and explosions filled the scene. Several awakened warriors leapt forward to attack a multi-eyed mutant. Blue energy surrounded their strikes as they moved together under visible strain. By 2145, humanity had been forced back to its final stronghold. Broken steel structures surrounded by fire formed the city. A massive skeleton-like mutant loomed above a fallen soldier. It was Third Order awakened, each marked with their combat classification. The Hammer Warrior said Low Order awakened had already fallen. Third Order fighters wouldn't last much longer. The massive mutant shifted its weight. The ground cracked beneath it. The team tightened their stance and braced. The team leader warned of hidden abilities. Weapons were gripped tighter. Thick red tentacles swept through the air and encircled the three warriors. Sound effects filled the panel as space closed around them. Tentacles struck near the Hammer Warrior. The impact knocked him sideways, disrupting his footing. A tentacle lifted the mechanical archer into the air. Her limbs strained against the grip as the others turned. The Hammer Warrior requested assistance to gain height. He leaned forward, gathering strength. A close-up revealed the mutant's face, glowing eyes, rows of teeth fixed on the trapped humans. Purple mucus spread across the archer's armor. Her expression changed as it covered her equipment. The mucus bound her arms and legs to the mutant. Her body froze completely. The Hammer Warrior and the supporter looked down at the spreading substance. Escape was no longer possible. Close-ups showed their widened eyes, frozen as the mutant loomed closer. An orange beam of light pierced down through the darkness. The warriors tilted their heads upward. The mutant's body sliced apart by rapid energy strikes. Flesh segments separated midair. Severed tentacle chunks fell. The area around the team littered with remains. The survivors turned toward the attack source. Dust and debris drifted around them. Human silhouette appeared inside a halo of intense light. Smoke and ash parted around him as he stood holding a sword. The attack belonged to a god-tier talent. The newcomer's status reclassified. He descended rapidly, leaving trails of light. Air displaced as he moved downward. Lord Yenning stood, revealed in a long black coat with armored shoulders. He held a jagged sword, emitting energy. The team called out Lord Yenning's name together. Their bodies lowered as they faced him. Yenning spoke calmly, gazed steady ahead. Close-up showed Yenning's face, glowing eyes, sharp features. Wind moved his hair across his forehead. The team bowed their heads toward Yenning. Their bodies remained lowered. Yenning lifted his gaze toward the sky. His hand tightened around his sword's handle. One team member pointed upward. A large shadow formed above Yenning. A massive silhouette moved through the red clouds. Its shape differed from the mutants below. Yenning observed the creature, speaking of its unusual presence. A bead of sweat appeared on his face. The Fourth Order mutant appeared fully, a humanoid form with horns and a large eye embedded in its chest. Multiple tentacles extended from its body. The Hammer Warrior charged toward the airborne mutant. His body leaned into the attack. He leapt upward, swinging his hammer with both hands. His entire body followed through. A distant view showed him approaching the massive mutant. The creature remained still. The eye in its chest rotated and glowed purple. Energy gathered around it. A beam of purple energy erupted outward. The blast filled the frame. Cracks of light spread across the Hammer Warrior's skin. His expression changed. His motion continued unchecked. The beam erased him and his weapon instantly. A horizontal line of energy stretched across the sky. The mechanical archer watched and screamed. Flames ignited around her mechanical equipment. She rushed forward, energy trailing behind. Tears streaked her face. The mutant reacted, tentacles lashed outward. The strike reached her mid-movement. Several tentacles pierced her body and lifted her off the ground. The flames vanished. Close-up showed her eyes fading as her body went limp. Her head fell to one side. Yenning caught her falling body before it hit the ground. He stood beneath the mutant. The mutant hovered above, limbs spread wide. Shadows stretched across the earth. Yenning recognized it as a Fourth Order mutant. His eyes narrowed. He lowered the archer's body to the ground. His attention shifted back to the enemy. The archer spoke briefly before going still. Her eyes closed as smoke drifted past. Yenning struck the mutant's limbs with his bone sword. Sparks and force exploded from the clash. A surge of power pushed Yenning backward. His boots scraped across broken ground. Cracks formed along his sword. Pieces chipped away. Energy flared around Yenning as flames spread from his body. His stance lowered, power gathering. He launched forward, sword glowing red. Light blurred around him. A massive explosion of light filled the battlefield. The ground collapsed into a crater. Yenning stood amid settling dust, breathing heavily. Sweat streamed down his face. The mutant's chest eye glowed through the smoke. Its body showed no damage. Tentacle shot forward and wrapped around Yenning's throat. His sword slipped from his hand. Yenning slammed into the ground with tremendous force. Blood sprayed from his mouth. He lay on his back, covered in blood and debris. The mutant towered above. Blood dripped from Yenning's face as a faint smile formed. His eyes stayed open. The mutant raised its limbs and tentacles, leaning forward. Yanning's expression softened as his eyes dimmed. His body stilled. The panel filled with deep red as tentacles descended. Yanning disappeared beneath them. The scene shifted to a military command center. Officers stared silently at their screens. Senior commander leaned forward, strained. His mouth formed a question. Monitors displayed the mutant standing over Yanning's body. 0 life signs indicated. The commander lowered his head. His eyes looked wet. He rested his hands on the console. His body remained still. The general leaned over the command console, weight pressed into his arms. All defense lines had collapsed. He ordered a nuclear strike. Third Order Awakened would carry the warheads. Helicopters flew above a ruined city at sunset. Smoke rose into the clouds. The mission would continue even in death. Soldiers in black combat gear stood in a line at an aircraft's open hatch. They prepared to die with dignity. They jumped, holding spherical nuclear devices against their bodies. They fell toward streets filled with mutants. Humanity would keep fighting. Close-up showed a falling soldier staring at a massive, multi-eyed mutant below. His hands tightened around the bomb. The struggle would continue forever. Inside the command center, the general watched multiple screens in silence. His fist clenched. The room stayed still. A blinding white explosion erupted in the city center. Buildings vanished as a shockwave expanded. Multiple nuclear mushroom clouds rose. Repeated detonations filled the horizon with fire. The view shifted to space, Earth marked by glowing strike points. The planet remained dark and silent. Lord Yanning's face appeared in close-up, covered in sweat and small wounds. His eyes opened slowly, head aching. He sat up in a dim medical room, bandages wrapped around his arms. He questioned whether he'd died. 2 guards watched through a glass partition. They noticed his awakening and debated their response. One guard spoke into an intercom, explaining Yanning's infection history and failed talent tests. He'd send Yanning for outside testing. The second guard, half hidden in shadow, suggested eliminating Yanning. Payment had already been received. The atmosphere turned hostile. Both guards laughed, looking down at Yanning. They dismissed him as insignificant, planning to report him as mutated. The guard entered, aiming a handgun. He warned Yanning to stay down if he wanted to survive. Yanning looked up, his yellow eyes sharpened. He realized he returned 3 years into the past, to the day of the talent test. His expression hardened. His previous failure had been sabotage. His gaze locked on the guard. The guard raised his weapon, ordering Yanning to stop talking and die. Faint red glow appeared in Yanning's eyes. He refused the same ending. Gunfire erupted. Yanning lunged, seizing the shooter's arm as bullets struck walls. He struck the guard's neck with a single blow. The weapon fell as the guard collapsed. He followed with a spinning kick, sending the second guard crashing into a metal wall. The guard clutched his chest. Another guard stared, eyes wide, hands shaking. Gunshots echoed through the corridor as Yanning moved forward. Flashes of light reflected in his eyes. Yanning stood alone in the hallway, bodies behind him. He recalled surviving as a scavenger after missing the test. A memory showed younger Yanning wandering ruined streets with other survivors. The group looked thin and exhausted. His god-tier talent had only been discovered after Huaxia fell. He'd been left without time or resources. He remembered his battle with a fourth-order mutant. His strength had been insufficient. Images of his mother and Zion appeared. He felt regret for failing to protect them. Flashback showed his mother shielding Zion from flames. Fire consumed them. Yanning stood upright beneath facility lights. There was still time to change the outcome. He vowed to pass the test and become the strongest. His eyes burned with resolve. A blue holographic interface appeared before him. It announced the binding of the Apocalypse Sword God system. The interface displayed a mission: contact the test crystal within 30 minutes. Failure conditions shown. A mission hint stated sword-based abilities would be enhanced dramatically. Forbidden techniques suggested. Yanning stood still in the corridor, observing the interface. The system differed from the one he knew. His expression focused as he resolved to reach the test and uncover the saboteur. His intent was fixed. Countdown timer appeared, 31 minutes remaining. Blue light reflected across his eyes. Armed guards appeared at the corridor's end. They ordered Yanning to surrender, calling him infected. The timer counted down as Yanning assessed the group. He identified the leader as a low-order awakened. Yanning prepared to seize the leader as a hostage. His gaze locked on the target. He moved suddenly, deflecting the captain's weapon. Metal rang through the hallway. The captain disarmed, his gun flew away. Jog crossed his face. Yanning slipped behind him in a blur. His eyes glowed red. He seized the captain, holding tightly. Other guards froze, weapons raised. Yanning pressed a gun to the captain's head. He warned them not to move. The guards shouted threats of legal consequences. Weapons stayed aimed but uncertain. Yanning demanded to be taken to the test square within 3 seconds. His posture stayed calm. The guards whispered, questioning his sanity. Yanning pressed harder. The captain's face twisted in fear. The captain tried calming the situation, suggesting a misunderstanding. Yanning showed no reaction. Yanning ordered the captain to move forward. The group headed toward the exit. As they walked, the captain warned that awakening wouldn't prevent death. His tone was fatalistic. The apocalypse began in 2042. A century of catastrophe followed. Flashback showed advanced aircraft flying over devastated land. Smoke covered the ground. The first awakened emerged and allied with the military. Huaxia began rebuilding. The current day determined fate through talent testing. The stakes were absolute. The test square appeared, surrounded by tanks and drones. Military presence was immense. Success meant becoming a combat awakened. failure meant an ordinary life. The outcome was final. Liao Tian stood on a platform announcing the test's start. His posture was formal. Groups moved through a glowing portal toward the square. The area was orderly. An alarm blared, an announcement warned of an infected taking a hostage. Panic spread instantly. A guard shouted into a radio, issuing urgent alerts. His expression strained. Liao Tian and officials turned toward the disturbance. Their faces showed anger and shock. Soldiers flooded the square, aiming weapons at the entrance. Vehicles and drones blocked the area. Yanning and the captain moved through the chaos. Gunfire and shouting filled the space. The square brimmed with soldiers focused on Yanning. The contrast in numbers was overwhelming. Liao Tian commanded Yanning to surrender. His voice amplified across the square. He threatened immediate execution if Yanning refused. His gaze was cold. Rifles aimed from all directions. Red targeting lights covered Yanning and the captain. Yanning spoke calmly. He was not infected. The crowd reacted with surprise. He explained he didn't intend to disrupt the ceremony. His focus remained on the platform. The guard watched through a scope, finger on the trigger. Confusion crossed his face. Yanning stated his purpose clearly. He had come. Malevolent commander filled the frame in extreme close-up, mouth stretched wide in a primal scream of fury. Every vein in his neck bulged thick and distorted. His eyes narrowed into slits of murderous intent. He roared, dialogue bubbles jagged as he ordered the protagonist seized immediately. Military guards in white and black futuristic armor moved with chilling precision. They drew glowing energy blades, the hum vibrating through the air. Faces hidden behind expressionless helmets, they surrounded the protagonist, a display of mechanical violence. No words exchanged, they moved as a single lethal unit, closing the circle. Suddenly perspective shifted. A small, sleek black device, a formal article of law, fell through the air, trailing blue whoosh sound effects that cut tension. Visual focus pulled from the guards toward the protagonist's legal defense. The protagonist stood unnervingly calm at the storm's center. Glowing blades hovered inches from his face. He did not flinch. He cited Article 137 of the Safe Zone Regulations, a military law granting special rights to awakened individuals. His neutral expression acted as a shield. Soldiers hesitated, hands stopping short of the killing blow. Verbal exchange ended in violence. A guard delivered a brutal strike, sharp motion lines, and a thunderous bang emphasizing force. The blow sent the protagonist flying. He hit the ground hard, skidding across pavement as dust rose around him. Before he recovered, two guards stood over him, weapons drawn to prevent rising. From a high-angle shot, the protagonist looked helpless, pinned by multiple soldiers. One restrained his arm, while others pointed energy swords at his throat. The commander looked down with manic bloodlust, dismissing appeals to law as madness. He pointed a trembling finger, issuing the execution order. When guards hesitated, he repeated it with fury, fist clenched tight, spittle flying as he lost restraint. An executioner stepped forward, raising a massive energy-infused blade. The protagonist looked up, face bruised and dirt-stained, but eyes clear. The atmosphere shattered as a supersonic psychic fighter jet descended. Beams of light blasted from thrusters, engine roars drowning the commander's screams. Guards looked up in shock. The execution attempt halted by something far more powerful. Close-up showed the jet's landing bay opening. Dread shifted to awe. Grand Marshal Zio high leapt from the aircraft. His massive frame silhouetted against bright sky, a titan among mortals. On-screen text identified him, Second Order awakened. His presence shifted the plaza's power balance. He landed with overwhelming force, impact cratering ground, shockwave of blue light and dust blasting guards away. One guard cringed, sweat pouring down his face under Zio High's crushing aura, an oppressive physical weight. Zio High stood calmly in the crater's center, blue psychic energy flickering like ghost fire. He assessed the protagonist with a cold gaze. He stated flatly the protagonist's resolve would now be tested. He issued an ultimatum. The protagonist would be executed instantly if he failed to awaken during the test. Zio High's battle-hardened face showed in stern close-up, devoid of pity. He ordered the test begin immediately. His authority silenced opposition. The protagonist, partially restrained, looked up with a twisted, defiant smile. This was the moment he awaited since rebirth. Guards released him. He walked alone toward the massive testing monolith, a structure of ancient technology and psychic sensors dwarfing him. Students and soldiers whispered disdain, questioning why a commoner touched the machine. The protagonist stood before the pillar, shadow stretching long. He reflected on past life, manipulations, and failure. He raised his hand, eyes burning with intensity. He prepared to take control of his fate, declaring his intention to start from the first step. As his hand neared the machine's surface, tension peaked. His palm touched cold metal, a spark ignited. The monolith vibrated violently. Onomatopoeia filled the scene as ground shook from massive energy surge. Purple energy exploded outward in a top-down view, pushing observers back like a physical wave. The commander and Zio High appeared in a split reaction panel, faces illuminated by eerie purple light. The crowd shielded their eyes. A pillar of light erupted from floor to sky, focusing entirely on the protagonist. Inside the light, he remained calm. He recognized this sensation, spiritual energy infusion. He accepted the power fully, hair rising as energy stabilized under his control. The testing machine's UI flickered mid-air, calculating results. D-level talent. UI updated rapidly, C-level. Surge continued, B-level. The commander watched the level climb, horrified. Sweat poured down his face as he lost composure. UI flashed a final massive notification, A-level. The result stunned the crowd, but Yi Ning wasn't finished. Purple light filled Yi Ning's eyes in high-contrast close-up. He realized the testing crystal could withstand more. He pushed. A wide shot showed the pillar swirling into a violent vortex. The Grand Marshal stood still, recognizing the rarity. The beam intensified, changing density, reflecting off circling fighter jets. It extended into clouds, overwhelming airspace. Yi Ning's clothing tore under pressure. Violet energy flared from his fingertips through bandages. The beam turned hot pink-purple, flooding the facility. UI stabilized, displaying a result that silenced the world. S-level talent. Military observers stared in motionless silence. The Grand Marshal's eyes narrowed. He knew the test hadn't ended. A narrative panel identified Yi Ning as potential Third Order awakened. The Marshal issued commands through a holographic device, deploying armored troops, sealing routes. The square fell under full military control. Inside the energy vortex, Yi Ning's power spiked one last time. His eyes shifted color. Brown cracked beneath him. Light reached blinding peak, then slowly settled. A dark silhouette appeared at the crater's center. Yi Ning stood alone, fading blue flames flickering around his feet. The machine displayed a glitched flickering readout. The narrative panel revealed pureblood classification, followed by the impossible final result, SS-Level. The Grand Marshal laughed, arms spread wide in pride and triumph. The commander stood pale and broken beside him. Civilians whispered in awe, disdain replaced by sharp attitude shifts. Yi Ning looked at his glowing hand, reflecting that the crystal stopped. Yi Ning faced empty space, mentally commanding an interface to appear. Surrounding figures remained visible as his focus turned inward. The blue holographic sword god system interface materialized. Large text displayed extreme attribute increases and guaranteed sword skill upgrades. The interface scrolled to reveal massive psychic energy amplification and removal of talent restrictions. Yi Ning observed a floating screen. Digital symbols drifted around him, signaling relief after successful completion. He examined the system panel, eyes widening. The system's power dwarfed his previous life's peak achievements. Current mission text warned of elimination if the system's existence was exposed. Yi Ning looked aside, a plan forming. His expression sharpened. Commander Zai Ohai approached, congratulating Yi Ning on his SS-level result. He stood over Yi Ning, offering any reward, using familiar terms. Yi Ning stared blankly while others reacted with confusion. His attention remained locked on an internal mission. Zai Ohai assumed post-awakening shock. He laughed loudly, tension dissipating. Zai Ohai placed an arm around Yi Ning's shoulders and guided him forward. Yi Ning appeared small beside the commander's overwhelming presence. They moved through a high-tech doorway into a private office. Clean military architecture framed the space. A panel stated those responsible for framing Yi Ning had been handled. Tea steamed in cups on a low table. The setting shifted to calm enclosure. Zai Ohai sat across from Yi Ning in a high-rise office overlooking the city. Yi Ning had been selected for the Seedling program. Benefits included elite guidance and unrestricted resources. Zai Ohai leaned forward intently. He rested his chin on his hand, requesting details of Yi Ning's talent. Yi Ning remained attentive but cautious. Shadows partially covered Yi Ning's face. He resolved to reveal only his original talent. He described a psychic telekinetic ability, establishing his official record. Zai Ohai reacted with visible interest. Psychic talents were rare, outside assistance was implied. Zai Ohai asked again what reward Yi Ning desired. His posture remained open. Yi Ning met his gaze and requested a sword skill book. Zai Ohai smiled easily, approving. A subordinate departed with the city skyline visible behind them. Time passed. The subordinate returned holding a glowing tablet, the highest level sword skill available. Zai Ohai presented the tablet formally. Yi Ning accepted it, expressing a desire to return home. His posture showed restrained urgency. Zai Ohai laughed, assuming familial excitement. The meeting ended. He ordered elite soldiers to follow Yi Ning at all times, emphasizing protection. Yi Ning exited under escort. Zai Ohai watched, expression turning serious. Lone Zai Ohai's aura flared. He demanded a report on the sabotage attempt. His hardened expression issued orders for immediate arrests regardless of status. Authority remained absolute. High-ranking officers bowed beneath bright command lights. The sixth gathering point glowed at night. Industrial buildings filled the frame. An armored transport vehicle dominated narrow streets. It halted abruptly. A military boot stepped onto cracked pavement. Yi Ning exited carrying a bag, instructing guards to remain behind. Neighbors watched in shock, whispering recognition. A woman pointed as Yi Ning walked away. Hushed speculation followed. Yi Ning heard a familiar call and stopped. His posture softened. A young girl turned toward the sound, Yi Zion in a school uniform holding a trash bag. Yining looked at her, recalling past failure. The flashback showed Zion in distress. He faced his sister with a firm expression, silently pleading for forgiveness and resolve to protect her. He pulled her into a tight embrace, closing his eyes. His body shielded her fully. Zion leaned back, confused and surprised. They hadn't seen each other in over a year due to his training camp confinement. She looked up with widened eyes, questioning how he left the restricted camp early. Yining smiled, tears gathering. He had completed the awakening test. Zion lifted her hand to his face, concerned. She questioned his tears. He laughed softly, reassuring her. His tears came from happiness. They walked hand in hand toward their worn apartment building. Zion mentioned their mother's worry. Yining nodded, anticipating the surprise. Zion lifted a bag of salvaged mechanical parts. The items could be exchanged for food. Her smiling face emphasized attention to her brother's well-being. Yining looked gently at her. He promised the family would eat well from now on. Zion's eyes brightened. She asked if meat would be included. Yining confirmed they could have as much as they wanted. Her excitement reflected joy at the promise. The table overflowed with meat, vegetables, and rice. Abundance filled the frame. The family sat together after the meal. Supplies stacked nearby. Yining held his chopsticks calmly. He confirmed passing the awakening test. His mother clutched her chest, eyes wide with shock and relief. Zion raised her chopsticks high, grinning with pride. Yining nodded quietly, content. Zion asked hopefully if such meals would be possible every day. A wide shot showed the family together. Their food struggles were over. The apartment building stood quiet at night, a single window illuminated. Clean dishes stacked neatly in the sink. Zion and their mother slept side by side under a blanket calm. Yining stood in his doorway, looking back. Quiet vigilance filled his stance. His hand turned the doorknob. He entered and closed the door. He stood in his cluttered room, activating the system and preparing the skill book. A blue holographic interface appeared above the manual. Mission completion and attribute acquisition confirmed. The system scanned the book, C-level sword skill. Interface reflections glowed in Yining's eye. Successful update confirmed. The interface flashed, skill enhanced to SSS-Level. Yining held a glowing energy orb, blue blades rotating around him. A system window displayed detailed skill data and consumption values. Sweat formed on Yining's face. Shock at the enhancement scale gripped him. He sat at his desk reviewing the skill's spiritual energy cost. High requirements made it unusable under normal conditions. Status windows showed his current level and reserves. A higher level was required. Relief crossed his face. The system's extra effect allowed limited usage. He rested his chin on his arms, troubled. Secrecy restrictions demanded public use avoidance. His guarded expression confirmed avoiding public skill use. He glanced toward his bookshelf. Maintaining status within the program was priority. His hand clenched on the table. Restrained excitement built. He smiled faintly as the energy orb hovered again. Eagerness filled him. His eyes narrowed. Specific location formed in his thoughts. Yining smiled with confidence. Military territory testing location was chosen. A neon-lit city pulsed as green and yellow spiritual energy surged into the night sky. The apocalypse had saturated the world. Purple multi-eyed monster crawled from ruined buildings. Civilians fled in panic. Random dungeons appeared everywhere. Two monstrous creatures moved through dark forests, eyes glowing. Humanity responded after awakened individuals rose and completed trials. A massive blue-scaled monster towered over three armed soldiers mid-street battle. Humans gathered dungeon data through combat. A military command center bustled with officers monitoring data streams. Heavy resources developed test dungeon. Three armored soldiers stood before a glowing blue gate, weapons ready. Test dungeons enabled real combat training. Comparison contrasted test dungeons with natural ones. A soldier struck a monster while dodging a fatal blow. Fatal danger could be evaded inside test dungeons. The monster's open mouth loomed over a fallen soldier. Dungeon security operated at extreme levels. The soldier dissolved into blue light. Safety protocols activated. Wooden door slid shut with a fading sound. Yining departed home quietly. He walked dark streets in a hooded trench coat. The military test dungeon was safest for skill testing. A massive fortified facility dominated the view. The Heavenly Wind Safety Zone Test Dungeon. Yining stood on a circular platform bathed in blue light. He requested a low-level solo dungeon. The gatekeeper reacted with surprise, recognizing Yining as the SSS-level talent mentioned by the commander. He expressed concern, warning of danger due to Yining's current level. Yining held a device with a red button. The gatekeeper continued objecting. Blue energy gathered around Yining. He reassured it was only a brief test. He vanished upward in a column of blue light. The gatekeeper watched with concern. Yining appeared inside a dark vaulted hallway, entry into the test dungeon. He observed the ruined city environment. Low danger rating confirmed. He examined his issued equipment via holographic screen. Only a basic dagger had been provided. Blue light gathered in his hand. The dagger materialized. He held it in reverse grip, smiling faintly. A weaker weapon suited testing. A hulking purple monster advanced down the hallway. Combat began. Yining's eye glowed sharply. The monster lunged, tongue extended. Yining pushed off the ground, energy trailing. Rapid evasion. He reappeared behind the monster in a blur. The creature had misjudged him. His feet landed firmly. Counterattack initiated. He raised the dagger poised to strike, intent to obtain points. The dagger plunged into the monster's back. Light erupted fatal damage. The monster collapsed heavily. Yining walked past it, casually assessing the result. A green exit sign glowed above an automated door inside the ruined city dungeon. The door marked Yining's entry into a new sector. Yining ran through a dark industrial corridor as his trench coat flowed behind him. His movement carried him deeper toward the inner area of the dungeon. Yining stopped at a heavy metal door and pushed it open as the hinges creaked. His posture showed readiness as the passage opened. A massive red-skinned monster with 3 eyes and rows of sharp teeth emerged from the darkness while gripping the doorframe. The creature's presence immediately blocked the path forward. A close-up showed the monster roaring directly toward Yining as it leaned forward. Reported speech indicated that there was still another obstacle ahead. The monster lunged its head forward and snapped its jaws inches from Yining's face. Yining remained still as he observed the creature's movement. Yining struck with his dagger in a single rapid motion as blue energy sliced through the monster's neck. The creature was decapitated instantly. The monster's body collapsed into dust while Yining stood above it and looked down at his weapon. He realized that his prior combat experience made such enemies easy to handle despite his current state. Yining narrowed his eyes and looked toward the far end of the corridor. He understood that only a stronger opponent would properly test his skill, and that the boss area lay ahead. Yining walked onto a broken escalator inside a ruined mall filled with flickering digital screens. He moved through the abandoned structure toward an exit route. From a balcony above, Yining looked down into a wide, dusty plaza. He identified the location as the boss region beyond the surrounding shops. Yining sprinted across a bridge while looking down at a large horde of purple zombies gathering below. Roaring sounds rose from the plaza. The zombie horde turned toward the source of the noise as their numbers continued to grow. Yining recognized that the situation was escalating rapidly. Yining leapt from the bridge into the center of the horde as a gray streak amid the mass of monsters. Roaring sounds filled the area as he descended. Yining slid across the ground while drawing his dagger and cutting through the crowd. He noted that killing normal zombies did not increase his spiritual energy. Yining climbed onto the roof of a yellow truck and scanned the area from above. He searched for the aura belonging to the dungeon boss. A massive gray mutant with spiked shoulders appeared behind Yining and reached toward him. Yining prepared to eliminate the creature blocking his path. Holographic warning markers appeared across the area as the system detected the boss region. The alert confirmed the presence of a major threat. A top-down view showed Yining standing alone in the center of the plaza, as warning barriers formed a sealed arena around him. The boss region was fully established. Yining stood calmly within the enclosed arena as the system identified the incoming threat. The alert announced the arrival of a peak level 1 mutant named Corpse Chewer. Close-up showed Yining looking slightly upward as he waited. His expression remained steady. The Corpse Chewer burst from the ground in an explosion of debris as its massive body emerged. The creature towered over Yining and released a roar. The boss charged forward and smashed its fist into the ground where Yining had stood moments earlier. Yining leapt back in time and realized the creature's speed was extreme. Yining remained airborne as purple energy surrounded him. A system warning indicated that insufficient strength would lead to failure. The boss struck the ground again and shattered the pavement as dust and debris filled the air. Yining used the falling rubble as footholds to gain height. A close-up showed Yining pushing off a chunk of debris as blue energy propelled him forward. He accelerated toward the boss. Yining drove his glowing dagger into the boss's armored shoulder as sparks and energy burst outward. A system notice stated that retreating from the dungeon was always possible. Yining flipped backward and landed smoothly while blue energy surrounded him. A notification confirmed that his SSS-level skill was fully charged. A massive explosion of blue and white energy erupted outward from Yining as he activated his skill. The blast engulfed the area. Stylized text displaying Sword Storm appeared amid swirling energy blades. The skill fully manifested. A wide view showed the entire plaza being torn apart by countless invisible energy blades. The boss was shredded at the center of the storm. Chunks of stone and debris rained down as the energy dissipated. Thick dust clouds covered the battlefield. Yining stood alone as the dust settled, while fragments of blue energy drifted around him. He looked down at his hands in disbelief. The remains of the Corpse Chewer lay scattered across the ruined plaza. Yining realized the battle had ended with a single strike. Yining examined his hands again and understood that Sword Storm allowed him to hunt far stronger enemies. His assessment of future targets shifted. A close-up showed Yining smiling slightly as he acknowledged his current level. He knew his growth had only begun. A system window appeared confirming the boss kill and the acquisition of spiritual energy points with a test dungeon deduction applied. The reward details were displayed clearly. Yining read the notification and recognized the reduced rewards as a result of using a military test dungeon. He accepted the trade-off for safety. Another notification appeared as a white-tier equipment item dropped. The system identified the item as Agile Hand. Yining looked at the equipment with surprise and questioned its appearance. He noted that test dungeons were not supposed to drop items. The system displayed the item's attributes, listing increases to agility, speed, and shooting stability. The bonuses were clearly shown. Yining equipped the glowing glove and examined his hand. hand. He recognized it as a solid start despite its rarity level. Yi Ning stood within a blue teleportation circle as his task concluded. He prepared to leave the dungeon. A close-up showed Yi Ning looking toward the exit as the teleportation activated. He prepared to depart. Yi Ning appeared back inside the military facility and handed the token to the gatekeeper. He stated that he had finished the run. The gatekeeper stared in surprise and assumed Yi Ning had exited early due to fear. His expression reflected misunderstanding. A senior officer rushed in and confronted the gatekeeper in panic. He accused someone of allowing an unauthorized team into the dungeon. The officer continued angrily and emphasized the dungeon's difficulty. He demanded an explanation. The gatekeeper nervously explained that no team had entered the dungeon at all. The officer reacted with confusion. The officer froze as realization set in and questioned how the boss could have been killed without anyone entering. Shock spread across his face. The officer and gatekeeper stared at a monitor displaying the agile hand drop data. They could not believe equipment had appeared in a test dungeon. The gatekeeper recalled that Yi Ning had been the only person inside the dungeon. Fear crept into his expression. The gatekeeper remembered Yi Ning mentioning that he only wanted to test something. The meaning began to sink in. The gatekeeper stood frozen as sweat ran down his face. A wide view showed a desolate gray slum where survivors bartered for basic necessities. One man exchanged ammunition for a measured amount of flour. A street vendor displayed fried mantis for sale at a fixed weight per credit. The stall highlighted the scarcity and abnormal food economy. Yi Ning walked through the slum beneath a gray hood, recalling his recent victory over a level 1 mutant. Despite that success, he acknowledged the situation remained severe. A group of survivors clustered together as a military patrol approached. One person urged the others to move quickly to avoid being caught. A man shoved a child aside as the patrol drew closer. The interaction showed harsh behavior driven by fear. Yi Ning watched a man flee from a military guard while his thoughts lingered on a disaster he knew would occur 1 year later. Close-up showed Yi Ning's eyes tightening as he remembered his previous life. He recalled the Heavenly Wind safe zone being reduced to scorched land by level 3 mutants. A vision showed the city engulfed in flames as buildings collapsed and smoke filled the sky. The destruction appeared absolute. Yi Ning continued forward, thinking about a zombie riot that would occur in 10 days. The threat stood as the most immediate event on his timeline. Yi Ning glanced back toward his neighborhood. Concern centered on his mother and his sister Zion. Their safety remained unresolved. Close-up showed Yi Ning setting his jaw as determination hardened. He concluded he needed to grow stronger faster than before. The scene shifted to a high-tech cityscape at night identified as the capital Safe Zone Central Army Headquarters. An urgent report concerning an SS-level talent was announced. Inside a military briefing room, a general examined Yi Ning's holographic profile. He identified the combination of pure blood and SS-level talent as valuable. A large holographic screen displayed Yi Ning's identity and classification as an SS-level psychic system awakener. His data was formally recorded. A general noted that recent casualties among level 3 awakened had been heavy. Yi Ning's potential addition was considered crucial. A wide shot revealed numerous high-ranking generals seated around a long table. They agreed to accelerate Yi Ning's training and provide full resources. One general proposed directly incorporating Yi Ning into the capital military region under a commander-in-chief instructor. The suggestion carried unprecedented weight. A stern-mustached general questioned whether they intended to cross the impenetrable ravine between level 3 and level 4. Doubt entered the discussion. A gray-haired general explained that no one in the military, including the 4 great commanders, had reached level 4. The limit remained unbroken. The mustached general argued that failure stemmed from insufficient early resources. He believed Yi Ning could be different. The generals collectively agreed that starting Yi Ning with the best resources was worth attempting. Initial approval settled over the room. The mustached general delivered a final affirmative response. The proposal advanced. A senior officer stood and officially announced Yi Ning's selection as the top seedling program candidate. Immediate transfer orders were issued. A bespectacled general suddenly objected while standing amid a cold blue aura. The decision was halted. The mustached general and others turned back in shock and demanded an explanation. Confusion spread. A wide view showed the bespectacled general, representing the 4th Military Region standing firm. Tension filled the room. The bespectacled general adjusted his glasses and asked whether the last paragraph of the report had been read. A flaw was implied. He revealed that Yi Ning had awakened a psychic system and stated that no psychic had reached level 3 in 70 years. Yi Ning's value was questioned. Holographic display highlighted Yi Ning's psychic system status. The classification stood unchanged. The general stated that psychic awakeners possessed the weakest physical abilities and were usually relegated to support roles. Dismissal dominated his tone. A flashback image showed psychics being shielded by armored soldiers. He claimed that solo combat for psychics led to death. The general explained that single-player promotion missions for psychics relied entirely on luck. Advancement appeared unreliable. A close-up showed another general sweating as the final statistic was stated. Successful psychic promotions from peak level 2 to level level 3 numbered 0. The mustache general lowered his head without response. The data stood unchallenged. A wide shot showed the generals seated in silence within the dim room. Agreement followed. The bespectacled general concluded that Yi Ning's importance should be lowered to avoid wasting resources. Support was withdrawn. The narrative panel marked the arrival of the next day. Expectations reset. Commander Zio Hai stood in his office, staring at a tablet in shock. Yi Ning's selection denial registered clearly. A message explained that psychic systems could not reach level 3, and therefore held limited value. Yi Ning's SS status was dismissed. A subordinate asked whether Yi Ning should continue receiving the previously planned treatment. The question lingered. Commander Zio Hai slammed the tablet onto his desk and ordered the cancellation of the plan. Protection personnel were withdrawn immediately. The subordinate asked whether the investigation into the test obstruction should continue. The suspect's suicide was mentioned. Commander Zio Hai leaned back and stated that the investigation no longer mattered. Interest ended with Yi Ning's downgraded potential. The subordinate bowed and acknowledged the order. The exchange ended. A high-angle view showed a military transport truck departing from Yi Ning's slum residence. Guards informed him that the safety zone had cancelled his plan. The guard explained that Yi Ning no longer needed to participate in the seedling program. Final farewell was delivered. Yi Ning stood in the dusty street as the truck drove away. He struggled to understand how his potential had been labeled as level 2. Yi Ning clenched his fist while acknowledging his true SSS-level talent. He recognized that even an SS evaluation should have been sufficient. Yi Ning's eyes narrowed as realization struck. Understanding dawned. A split view showed the city under mutant siege, alongside information stating that psychics were considered worthless. The misconception remained widespread. Yi Ning stood in a dark alley while recalling a review conference. He realized that psychic awakening was the true key to reaching level 4. Close-up showed Yi Ning smirking faintly. The military's ignorance became clear. Yi Ning briefly considered traveling to the capital to explain the truth. He dismissed the idea as futile. Yi Ning looked toward the sky and rejected the military's judgment. He decided to restore his strength to level 3 independently. Yi Ning clenched his gloved hand with confidence. He believed all issues would resolve once that level was reached. Yi Ning walked forward while reminding himself of the Sword God system and Sword Storm. His starting point surpassed his previous life. Yi Ning broke into a run as his cloak billowed behind him. He prepared to hunt mutants. An exterior view revealed a dark mist-filled forest labeled Wild Forest. Danger saturated the environment. 2 low-level awakened soldiers called out to Yi Ning and offered him a place on their team. They spoke casually. The soldiers approached and suggested hunting level 1 mutants together for experience. Yi Ning's true status remained unknown. The soldiers walked ahead into the forest and promised to keep Yi Ning safe. He followed as the situation was unknowingly reversed. Yi Ning stood alone in the dark forest with his back turned to the 2 low-level awakened who had offered him a team position. He rejected the offer after calculating that sharing experience from low-level mutants within a group would slow his growth. The space between them remained cold and distant. The lead awakened soldier reacted with visible anger as his face twisted while shouting toward Yi Ning's back. He regarded the refusal as a failure to appreciate their goodwill in a dangerous world. Tension began to form between the separated figures. The 2 soldiers continued speaking as they moved away into the trees, warning him about the dangers of the awakened world. They believed his attitude was excessive and would eventually lead to his death. Their words lingered with condescension. Close view revealed Yi Ning's face beneath the hood as his eyes glowed red. He released a single word that abruptly stopped the soldiers' insults. The atmosphere shifted through sheer physical intimidation. The lead soldier recoiled as sweat formed on his face, while a heavy sense of oppression pressed down on him. He perceived the gaze as similar to being watched by a wild beast. Fear overtook his reaction. The soldiers watched as Yi Ning walked deeper into the forest. They noted that only someone who had experienced life-and-death battles many times could possess such eyes. His presence felt unsettling to them. The 2 soldiers remained standing in the mist-filled woods as Yi Ning's silhouette vanished among the trees. They chose not to follow him. The forest grew quiet and empty around them. Close view showed Yi Ning's boots planted firmly on the forest floor. He had reached his intended location. His next phase began. Yi Ning moved through the forest of decay as twisted trees and thick gray mist surrounded him. He identified the area as one of the most dangerous regions outside the military safe zone. The environment felt oppressive and heavy. He paused and reviewed his memory of the terrain. He recalled that 2 level 1 mutants occupied the deepest part of the forest, with 1 at peak strength. His focus narrowed toward these targets. A holographic status window appeared before Yi Ning, displaying his progress toward level 1. He observed that advancement from level 0 required the elimination of 3 level 1 mutants. His assessment remained calm and precise. He reviewed his previous kill from the test dungeon and noted that the reduced experience still counted toward the requirement. He concluded that eliminating the 2 mutants in this forest would complete his promotion. His objective became singular. Yi Ning's hand reached back and grasped the military rifle strapped across his body. The weapon locked into place with a sharp mechanical sound. Readiness followed immediately. He held the rifle in a combat-ready stance while staring into the dark woods. He decided not to rely on his sword-based skill, choosing instead to train his physical body. The decision framed the coming battle. Yining sprinted through the undergrowth while firing bursts of orange energy from the rifle. He understood that future advancement required both psychic experience and a reinforced physical foundation. His movements remained aggressive and controlled. His attacks continued as physical strikes and close-range shots tore through red-eyed zombies. He actively worked to dismantle the notion that psychic awakeners were physically weak. Several minor mutants fell under the assault. Yining paused to reload as he faced a looming presence ahead. He recognized that failure to advance psychic awakening would leave humanity defenseless against stronger threats. The danger of higher-level mutants remained imminent. He directed his attention toward the seniors in the capital. He resolved to demonstrate the importance of the psychic system through action. Determination settled into his expression. The sky above the forest filled with birds as loud explosive sounds echoed through the trees. The noise spread across the area. A large-scale battle was underway. The two low-level awakened halted and turned toward the gunfire. Terror crossed their faces as they realized someone was fighting dangerous mutants. Recognition followed quickly. The lead soldier shouted for his partner to flee. He identified the source as the territory of the tree demon and believed the youth had gone there to die. Panic overtook their retreat. Yining slid across the ground as a massive green-scaled tentacle slammed down beside him. He narrowly avoided the strike while maintaining his grip on the rifle. The motion remained fluid and controlled. A blue holographic warning screen appeared in the air. It identified a peak-level threat approaching. The system confirmed the danger. Yining lowered into a defensive crouch as another warning screen appeared nearby. He realized the encounter involved more than one enemy. The situation escalated rapidly. Close view focused on Yining's eyes as he processed the information. He recognized the challenge of facing two opponents at once. His focus sharpened. A towering mass of dark vines and wood rose before him, crowned with glowing red eyes and jagged teeth. The tree demon loomed over the clearing. Its presence dominated the space. Yining looked upward at the massive creature while holding